Down in Houston, right? I don't know if you heard the quote, but from Randall Cobb, but he said people were looking at him like he just walked out of prison. So is it that bad in Houston? Is it that bad in Houston that it's like prison for everybody else?
Is there not a great irony in this that Aaron Rodgers, his beef with the organization and his belief that the organization is subpar in the treatment of players ultimately led to the acquisition of Randall Cobb, who now says that he's so glad to be with an organization that does not make him feel imprisoned.
Yes.
There is a twisted irony in all this, and maybe Green Bay isn't so bad after all. I do sense, though, that it is pretty bad in Houston. I mean, if you're looking at they're trading away a lot of top-tier talent, and they're not really left with very much. So it almost feels, honestly, to me, like an expansion club right now in Houston. And I don't know that anybody would really argue against that at this point.
We're speaking with Jeff Darlington, ESPN NFL reporter. The Houston situation, right? The Texans have finally said that they are listening to offers. With all of the allegations that are hanging over the head of Deshaun Watson, is there anything that Houston can get that's going to be a viable option for him? I mean, how does this all play out? He's there, he's at the practice field, he's not being fined. I mean, this just compounds the chaos that exists for the Texans.
I don't get anybody even reporting or suggesting that the Houston Texans could trade Deshaun Watson at this point. Nor do I understand the fan bases, whether it's Philadelphia or Miami, where you have these fans who are like, man, well, I'd love to make a trade for Deshaun Watson. You're trading for a guy with 22 civil lawsuits against him. Even if you just completely don't look at any of the current evidence that has been sort of publicized by those alleging these civil lawsuits and placing them on, even if you just discount all of the evidence that those people have brought forward, it's still, even if he is completely innocent of everything that he is alleged to have done, this is still going to take time. It still is not going to look great along the way. And if you're think about the stock market. If you've got a stock that all of a sudden is controversial, is that the time to sell it, or do you kind of want to wait till things maybe flush out a little bit and see what kind of value you get after the fact? Because right now, to me, Deshaun Watson's trade value is pretty low. So if you're the Houston Texans, why would you sell so low and trade for so little when it really isn't ultimately going to impact your season one way or the other? I don't understand why the Texans would trade for him, nor do I understand why another team would make that deal either.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to understand where that would go. And then just the uncomfortability of him. I mean, I know the head coach talked about how he hasn't been a distraction or everything, but I mean, he's not in the picture, right? He's made it very clear that A, don't want to be here, and B, with all the allegations, makes it pretty unlikely that he's going to be an eligible player, most likely, if the commissioner decides to put him on a list of some sort. So this is Tyrod Taylor's team, maybe leading into ultimately Davis Mills's, the rookie quarterback out of Stanford. But I mean, it just seems so chaotic in the wake of a new head coach and everything moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that players sometimes subscribe to the belief, or the agents of those players, that if we create chaos, then we'll cause the team to just want to get rid of the problem.
Right.
But we just saw it with Aaron Rodgers. Like, Green Bay weathered the storm of the offseason and ultimately now has number 12, a Hall of Fame quarterback, under center for them this season. So I'm not saying that the Texans are weathering the storm to eventually have Watson as their quarterback, but they can certainly weather the distraction to get proper trade compensation for him once we know what his punishment ultimately will be if the NFL decides to levy it. And once we have some better understanding of the actual, by the way, the important 22 civil lawsuits that are currently out there against him.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.